What's up everybody and welcome to another edition of AGR's Pop Culture Reviews. Now as you guys know, I'm a huge fan of the Wolverine. I think he's one of the coolest mutants and coolest characters in the Marvel Universe in general. Now prior to the early 2000s, I had always wondered, what if there was a female version of the Wolverine? How badass would that be? Fortunately, in the early 2000s, we actually got that question answered. Now in many ways, Laura Kinney is kind of like the Harley Quinn of the Marvel Universe. Relax, I'll explain. What makes them very similar is that their introduction into the universe wasn't actually in the comics, but instead their respective animated series. Harley Quinn being introduced in Batman the Animated Series, and Laura Kinney being introduced in 2004's X-Men Evolution. What these two characters also share in common is that they became overwhelmingly popular and eventually were canonized into the comic book storylines. What makes Laura Kinney a little bit different than Harley Quinn is that her film debut was a magnificent success both critically and commercially. 2017's Logan is easily one of the best examples of how you introduce a new character while paying respect and homage to one of our most beloved anti-heroes. The bond between Laura and Logan goes beyond mere biology, but I'm gonna let you explore that when you read the comics. Now she goes by many names, among them X-23, Laura Kinney, and of course taking the mantle of the Wolverine, as you'll explore when you read the comics. Either way, she's a total badass. So today we're going to be reviewing Kotobukiya's version of the Wolverine, aka Laura Kinney, the Bishoujo statue. Let's take a closer look. Now for those of you who are keeping score at home, this is actually Kotobukiya's second iteration of Laura Kinney. This is just the first time they actually have her in the Wolverine costume, and I'm actually going to review that figure later on, go back in time so to speak. Now the head sculpt here is done very well. I love the color palette here. The yellow offset against the blue looks amazing. Love those whited out eyes. Love the smirk on her face, and the hair sculpt looks amazing, guys. I can't wait to show you the reverse side just to see how wonderfully sculpted that is. The art direction and style of the head is also pretty cool. She's tilting it to the right a little bit. Now the midsection and upper torso of this piece is really magnificent and amazingly dynamic. I also have to remark that I love the textures here. That wet leather look looks really nice and it really makes it pop out. Just look at the shoulder blades and it's very reflective. I also love the way that they did the adamantium claws. As you know, Laura Kinney, unlike Wolverine, has two claws on her hands. The adamantium claws look really well done. I love the paint job on them, and I also love the gloves. The creases in the sculpt look really great, and I have to say, just that one sculpt, that one pose right there where she has a fist and her adamantium claws are coming out, that just looks so freaking cool, guys. I also have to say that the skin tones here are really fleshed out. They're not oversaturated. They look really well done. Now for me, what really sells the piece is definitely the lower section. In terms of diamonism, I mean, this is to the extreme in a very good way. Now again, it might seem like things will get a little monotonous with the overall color palette, but to counteract that to the eyeballs, they've created this wonderful focal point and really breaks up the monotony. The brown belt looks amazing, guys, especially the insignia of the X-Men logo in the middle, which has this red translucent medallion in the middle. I mean, it's just so well done, guys. These little small details are brilliant. And of course, there's the actual stance itself. I love when Kotobukiya has a character whose leg is slightly raised or raised completely as it is here. It really tells me that a lot of thought went into the overall engineering, art design, and style of this figure. The boot is also wonderfully sculpted, and as you know, X-23 has that adamantium claw in the actual boot, which is really cool. Again, similar to the ones on her hands, they're expertly done in terms of the overall paint job. And you also can see how they brilliantly engineered the actual boot itself into the base, and we'll get to that in a minute. And because of the design, the statue actually looks very monolithic, even though technically it's an illusion. Now, as I mentioned before, I was going to show you the reverse side because there is so much detail, guys, and you definitely have to mirror it. Just take a look at the head sculpt. Now, I love the way that it's just pouring out of the actual cowl itself. They're flowing in the wind. The individual strands are sculpted so expertly, and you also get a greater appreciation of the actual adamantium claws. There's some great fan service here, but unfortunately, sometimes it is obscured by the hair. Nevertheless, it still looks cool. You also see how she's attached to the base, and again, just look at how expertly that was done. The fact that it's translucent so it doesn't look like she's attached to anything is just amazing. Alright guys, look, I have seen a lot of Kotobukiya figures. I've reviewed them. If you look at my channel, you'll see a lot of them. but very seldom am I really blown away or am I as surprised by a base. This one is just so freaking cool, and if you've been reading comics, you'll know anytime you read these letters, SNIK with an exclamation point, you know that shit's gonna go down. Somebody's about to get their ass kicked. I love the way this looks. The red lettering superimposed over the black looks fantastic, and it really gives it a sense of 3-dimension. Also, what makes it remarkable is the fact that it's actually a very thin profile, and it really doesn't take up too much of a footprint, which I think is freaking cool. Now, I was hoping that Kotobukiya would do this, and they actually delivered. You do get an alternate head sculpt, which of course is very Kotobukiya-esque. Now, the countenance in the face here is great. I love the little smirk. The eyes are beautiful, especially the makeup. I mean, just done very well. But the selling point here really is the sculpt in the overall mask. Just take a look at how expertly that was done. It really does look like she just pulled up her mask. You can even see a little bit of the eye slot. The creases are done expertly, and if you'll notice just the small details, the fact that she's pulled up the mask actually changes the sculpt in the hair strands, which is a really nice detail. Alright guys, I know that it may seem like I give away Holy Grail piece ratings like candy on Halloween, but that's because these figures actually deserve them, and this is definitely a Holy Grail piece. It is just so freaking cool, guys. Now, very similar to the Snake Eyes 2 statue that I just reviewed, this too has an alternate limited version, which is basically this figure in the X-Force costume, which I'm going to be reviewing soon, so definitely stay tuned for that. Now, before I go, I just want to give a very special thank you to Japan Recommends for sending this wonderful piece over for review. Alright everybody, so that's my official review on Kotobukiya's version of Wolverine, aka Laura Kinney, the Bishoujo statue. As always, I thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next AGR's Pop Culture Reviews.